guys, welcome back to Casting Commons, the show where we discuss and talk all things Pauper. I am your host, Teasdale, and this is my co-host, the Toadstool admirer himself, Reese.
Hello.
How's it going, pal? You picked your own name this week. Obviously, you decided it was a lot better.
It seemed appropriate.
It definitely seems appropriate. But what have you been up to this week?
Again, not a huge amount of magic stuff. I've been busy with boring, normal day-to-day stuff.
Life.
Yeah, exactly. I did manage to play some Legacy in paper, which was quite good. Playing Painter. And then I've played a bit of Paper Arcana as well. Still smashing that, but apart from that, not a huge amount else.
Well, at least we got you to pick up some magic cards this week. And a 60 card format as well.
I did actually pick up my Paper Pauper deck just to sort it out and
to move it out the way to pick up the Legacy deck?
Well, just to change the list a little bit. But yeah, not a massive amount. What about you?
To be fair, I actually got out my paper cards too. Yeah. I needed to get something from behind them, so then I put them all back. But yeah, after that, I've just been playing a lot of Gardens, to be honest. I tried a list which I put up on Friday with is it Rowan's Grim Search? That card is class. I love that card. It's like my newfound love. So I played a lot of Gardens, just trying that out. Different lists, different variations. Currently halfway through a league right now. Didn't even decide to record it. I just wanted to play a league. So, nice. But yeah, that's about it. And then just in the middle of writing a Jund Wildfire deck with Brave the Wild in. Just been writing about that. So,
cool.
Not too exciting other than that. The boring stuff.
Yeah, is it what's it called?
Rowan's Grim Search, I think it's called.
Grim Search. I was going to say Rowan's Research. It seems to be cropping up quite a bit. I've seen Callie playing it in Ultratron as well.
Yeah.
Obviously just sees so many cards. Like even if you don't want the top 4, you can bin all 4, can't you? So you essentially see 6 cards for 3 mana, and obviously you get the sack outlet as well. So if you've got a Wellspring, you see another card. So you see 7 cards. You can see 7 cards if you want. Pretty nuts.
It's I was playing the Deck Doctor last week, and I think I versed him testing Ultratron with the Rowan's Grim Search, and I read this card. I was like, oh my god, I'm a reader, and I read what this card was, and I must have honestly absolutely glanced past it in the set. I didn't even know what it did, and I looked at it. I was like, this card's pretty good. It just sees a lot of cards.
Yeah, It was one I sort of looked at when we were looking at the spoilers, but I didn't feel like there was a place for it to go. Like, I thought it might be okay in Gardens, but I didn't know how much better it would be than just like disputes, etc. But obviously it seems to perform a lot better than I expected, and I'd never even considered like Ultratron.
Yeah, it's definitely a solid card, and I'll definitely be messing about with that some more. Maybe trying like Mogwarts or something, or even Reanimator. Who knows? Yeah. Binning a lot of cards is a good thing. Anyways, guys, let's move on to a little bit of news. First of all, the tournament news, fairly standard at this point. The Northern Pauper Open has been announced for Sunday the 8th of October at Geek Retreat Leeds. The event is capped at 64 players. I believe we have approximately about 40-ish on pre-sale. So the pre-sale has now ended, the early bird, so you will not be drawn into the raffle for the additional secret layer. However, you will be securing a place, and due to venue constraints, obviously the 64 is the limit. So if you are considering going, I'd highly recommend just getting your ticket now. It will be a good event. It's always well run by Dan, as always. And also Geek Retreat Leeds is a fantastic venue in the centre, not too far from the train station. All that sort of good stuff. The link will be in the description below for the event on Facebook. So I highly recommend you check it out. And we will see you guys there if you are going. Moving on to some news. We have an absolute legendary surprise for you this week. This week we will be doing a bonus episode. You have not got us just once this week, you have got us twice. But we are with none other than the legend himself, Alexander Weber, the Brazilian PFP representative and the amazing content creator as well. We look forward to having him on. We're going to talk about all sorts of different things, his magic journey, how it started. He is a TO in the Brazilian community there, and what that sort of thing's like. And of course, we will not leave anything unturned PFP related, of course. we will be asking him all sorts of questions, and it'll just be great to have a crack with him or a conversation if you are not covering. So yeah, that is it. That is the exciting news. So that will be out this week, and it'll be great to hear from Webber. And I hope you guys enjoyed that episode too. So let's move on to the lovely Saturday challenge from that exciting news. I can nosedive. Whee!
I think this week in general, the two pretty uninspiring challenges.
More inspiring than last week, I would like to say, because there is deep dive decks to talk about, sort of.
Yeah. First place on Saturday was Gardens. Second place was Cold Offer. Third and fourth was Mono Blue Terror making its return, and Grixis Affinity. And then fifth through eighth was a Blue White Glitters, another Mono Blue Terror, another Gardens, and another Cold Author. And then the near misses, another Cold Author, and a Ponza squeezing in on 10th. This is sort of what we've come to expect from Pauper as at the moment, I guess. Cold Author obviously still just as broken as ever. Glitters still gets there. It's definitely sort of on the lower end of these decks player wise. I imagine just because it's a bit less consistent than all the rest. Terra back after being basically nowhere last week for no apparent reason.
I think it went on holiday. I think it's went to Benidorm for a week or two.
Comes back this week, continues to do well. Squeeze 2 in the top 8. It is Mono Blue Terror. There's no Blue Black Terror still, just Mono Blue. And obviously Gardens set up well to deal with Cold Offer, Glitters and Terror, so it does well. I guess the only real outlier is the Grixis Affinity. And I believe Mogged was piloting that, so I'm not really surprised it's there. Oh no, it was Luffy. Luffy was piloting that. Mogged was on the Glitters. But yeah, same difference. Luffy's a ridiculous Affinity pilot, so I'm not surprised he's still doing well with what at the moment is probably pretty outdated deck.
Yeah, it's definitely an outdated deck for sure. He's obviously, you can tell he's considered the metagame. Like the deck runs 2 Galvanic Blasts and negate mainboard and stuff like that. It's like pretty. He's obviously still trying to fight that. I don't even want to say the good fight because Grixis Affinity like 4 months ago was definitely not the hero of this, but considering when you see it, it kind of is. You know, the times have changed and
it's the hero we deserve, not the hero we need.
Yeah, that is definitely accurate. The interesting thing I like, obviously going back on my Gardens week, both Gardens lists are pretty different. We've got the one's the USP dudes kind of defile list, and then which was the winning list, I think. Yeah, the winning list was on 4 defile main mana base, which is pretty nice. And no snuff outs, which is quite clean. I kind of like that sort of list. And then the other one, which was Ezo Crater, which was on like a more standard Gardens list with a Raven's Crime in the main, because why not? You know, but definitely on. I say mainstay because it ran Guild Swarm Prowler, which to me is definitely a meta call. I think for Terra. I think it's a real good answer to Terra if your Wellsprings can start killing your Terras. Can start killing Terras. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that is about as exciting thing I can see that you can talk about in the top 8 is Guild Swarm Prowler and Raven's Crime made it to the top 8. But yeah, nothing really to stand out apart from obviously Terra's come back from Benidorm all sunned up, ready to rock it up in a challenge and done well, I guess.
Yeah, I've ran back my little numbers segment that I did last week. So just some numbers from this top 32. So out of the top 32 decks, 12 of them were playing Swift Spear, 6 were Mare Enforcer, 5 were Avenging Hunter, 3 were Talarian Terror, and 3 were Basilisk Gate. So they're sort of what we've come to see as, I guess, the top 5 sort of archetype staples.
Yeah, I'd say format pillars, something like that. Seems like a very good way of putting
it. But out of that leaves 3 decks in the whole top 32 not playing one of these 5 cards. And those 3 decks were Bogles, obviously steals wins with all the glitters pretty efficiently. Fams, as we've said, combo decks can just get there, and Fams is a strong one. And White Weenie, which to me lately has just been the outlier of a deck that doesn't include any of these 5 cards, isn't combo and still can do well. Is White Weenie. I think just its consistency plus the strength of prismatic strands carries it pretty hard.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And I think if you're gonna pick a deck, if you're gonna pick a deck that doesn't involve these broken cards, I don't want to say broken cards because there's obviously a lot of things going on. Like Mer Enforcer's not a problem, but most Affinity and all that glitters decks do run both of those. Both run those. Like White Weenie is definitely the deck choice you would choose if you want to stay clear from these kind of decks, and it's a very solid one. Prismatic Strands is super strong right now, and just getting people dead with 1/1 flying birds is definitely a way to do it. For sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing just to double touch on, I guess, is the 5 cards we're mentioning, and we're not saying these are the broken cards, these are the issues with the format. This is just more of a generalization of like pillars of the format, like Teasdale was just mentioning. It's essentially like if you're outside of these 5 cards, you're gonna struggle to do well.
Yeah, there's like different ways you could tweak whichever way you want to see it as well. Like obviously, Mer Enforcer and Avenging Hunter you could kind of change if you really wanted to. Like Deadly Dispute and all that glitters kind of gives a similar approach in terms that Deadly Dispute pulls out the Grixis affinity, and all that glitters still pulls out the Bogles and the Blue White affinity. There's definitely different ways if you want to pull it out, but these are cards we would definitely describe as pillars in our personal opinion. Like Swift Spear is definitely the pillar of all red decks. Mer Enforcer to us is the pillar of all artifact based decks. Avenging Hunter is just the best green bomb knocking. Like you just, yeah. Tolarian Terror again, and Bassus Gate, all fairly self-explanatory. They are decks you build the cards, like you build these decks around these cards, which is why we think they are the pillars of the format.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's definitely interesting to see these numbers. Like we had last week was it four decks that weren't playing any of these cards mentioned.
Yeah, it was very similar numbers essentially.
Yeah.
Week to week, they are looking very similar.
Yeah.
Scarily similar, some may say.
Yeah. But yeah, that's I think that's the thing that we are looking at. We're not looking at necessarily, health, because obviously all these Mer Enforcer decks aren't all Grixis Affinity or aren't all Blue White Glitters. All these Avenging Hunter decks aren't all Gardens. There is lots of decks, but they are all roughly within this space of the pillar. You could maybe even make an argument for like Lorien Revealed being there as a pillar as well. Like that's in a lot of Corgate, it's in a lot of Terra, it's in all these blue X decks like FAMs and things like that. Like there is definitely ways you could look at this, but it's definitely interesting that you need to be having these powerful few cards in your deck, or else you're just going to struggle.
Yeah, I think just touching on that as well. Obviously, the Avenging Hunter decks and the Mer Enforcer decks were sort of the Avenging Hunter was split between Ponza and Gardens, and the Mer Enforcer was split between obviously the OG Grixis Affinity and Glitters. But the 12 Swift Spear decks were all Kuldotha, and the 3 Terra and the 3 Basilisk Gate decks were all Mono Blue Terra and all Blue White Gates.
Yeah.
Obviously, the last two aren't as concerning, but the 12 Swift Spear decks all being Kuldotha is pretty worrying.
Yeah. Like, even if it was like 10 Kuldotha and 2 mono red 1-drops, which, let's be honest, is just a more aggressive version of Kuldotha, is still scary. Like
But even there was no Kiln Fiend.
No Kiln Fiend, no Prowess, nothing like that. It's just full on,
pinger.
no pinger. It's just full on Kuldotha is the deck to choose right now. Wow. Do you want to move on to our deep dives?
Yeah. Obviously, amidst all the doom and gloom, I was able to pull a deck that I thought was quite cool. Strangely, from Medvedev, wasn't on Mono Red's Swift Spear on the Saturday. So it's 12th place with Bogles, but running 4 Toadstool Admirers instead of any Ledge Walkers, which I thought was quite interesting. Like the Bogles list in general, apart from that, is fairly stock. Interestingly, it's sort of maxed on the ethereal armor effects. So it's got 4 armors, 4 masks, and 4 all the glitters. We've seen often the cutting masks down, as it's a bit clunkier than the other two, but I think it sort of displays at the moment the way the meta is going, where the threats are now all 1-drops because you need to have them down turn 1 to have a chance at beating these Terror decks and these Kuldotha decks and the Glitters decks. To be fast enough, you need to deploy your threat on 1, and then you need to have the ethereal armors and the masks basically all the time. If you miss on having a big power bump, you're just gonna lose the race.
One thing that I would like to add, not on the deck as such, but more on the pilot, I feel like I'm going to start dubbing this a thing. Whenever Medvedev picks up a deck, I feel like he Medvedevs it, where basically he just makes it, whatever it is, just makes it cost an average of 1 less mana. He's like he's done with Mono Red. He went with Kuldotha and he went, you know what we need? Just 1-drops. Add some petals, make it aggressive as hell, Mono Red 1-drops. He's grabbed the Bogles, he's went, who needs these 2-drop heroic things? Let's run a 1-drop. And it's much more aggressive.
Yeah.
Instantly. Which has its bonuses, especially in this meta.
Yeah. Toad still does look very good at the moment. Obviously, yeah, coming down on 1, as we say, is key. It also gives you a bit of a late game mana sink against like gates and stuff like that as well, where the game is going a bit longer. But yeah, just a pretty cool, different take on Bogles. The sideboard, as we were just discussing before the show, is 4 Standard Bearer, 3 Flare and Pain, 4 Vitality Charm, and then 3 Spirit Links and a Life Link, which is essentially, I want to beat all the Glitters decks. I want to beat Edict decks. I want to have some Life Link for the Mono Red matchup, and I want a Flare and Pain through the Fox.
Simple, effective. But yeah, also I'd like to add obviously the 1 mana drop obviously being a good thing, but basically in this deck, if you have your guy on 1 and you're maxed out on Ethereal Armors or that glitters, you're winning probably a turn average earlier than normal anyways, so that the ward is probably as good as a like hexproof is normally. I was gonna say heroic then. But yeah.
I think the speed it grants you, the only thing you're going to struggle to is snuff out, essentially. Even things like cast downs and stuff cost them 4 mana. You're hoping to, if you've got him down turn 1, you're hoping to do enough damage before then that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool because like there's a lot of decks that like snuff outs on probably the lowest it's been, because even not all Gardens lists are on snuff outs, and if they are, it's only 2. Blue-black Terror's not on the dip. Like Snap's not quick enough. Cast Down's not quick enough, as you've mentioned. All the 1 mana removal spells just not really good enough, most likely. Like you've got Scred, you've got Defiled, you've got Bolt. Usually these things are... It's too big by the time it comes around to turn 3 to be able to...
Yeah, I think that with those, especially like Scred and Bolt, at the time where you want to cast them on 1, they would be good enough because it's a 1/1, but it delays them to turn 3, which where hopefully if your Bogle's plan's going well, it's going to be bigger than 3/3.
Yeah.
So yeah, the burn obviously isn't good enough.
Yeah, definitely seems like a solid option, and I wouldn't be surprised if this... Maybe not the mask. The mask's one thing that stands out to me is 4 mask, 4 armadillo cloak is... It's a lot of 3-drops.
Yeah.
But the creature suite definitely seems a lot cleaner. And I wouldn't be surprised if this stands out and becomes more mainstay than it is now. For sure. Anything else to add about Medvedev's Toadstool Bogles, as we've called him?
No, not really. Obviously, nice to see new cards. Nice to see a deck sort of outside the 5 we've mentioned doing well. Obviously, still all the glittering, but as we've said before, all the glitters outside of artifacts is a fine card. Like, it's not really an issue in Pauper.
Yeah. Let's move on to Sunday the 17th of September. Another exciting one.
Yeah, another fun one. First place, slightly different to Saturday, but more of the same really. First place was Mono Blue Terror. Second place was Colgate. Third and fourth was Mono Blue Terror and Colgate. And then fifth through eighth was Culdotha, Mono Red One Drops, which is Culdotha essentially. Black Green Gardens, Culdotha. And then the near misses was One Tribe in ninth place, and then a White Weenie in 10th.
Another exciting one with Tribe squeezing through, which is, again, as we've said many times, that these sort of decks can definitely just find that gap of this inbredness or this I'm so set up to beat X, Y, and Z that just goes around the outside and almost takes it. And obviously, didn't quite get there, but nice to see.
I imagine Tribe isn't the greatest against a meta where Gardens is doing well. But obviously it seems quite decently set up against the likes of Culdotha and Glitters especially. It seems very well set up against.
Yeah.
But yeah, sort of another top 8 we sort of expect to see. Swiftspear and Terra continue to dominate. The two control decks in Gardens and Colgate that are set up to beat those decks do well. Yeah.
There's not
the 5 cards are represented again.
Yeah, nothing really to add to this. We jokingly prepared these notes earlier than we normally would, anyways, because of our episode. And Reese put in what he would guess what the top 8 would be, and I think basically, apart from changing the order, I think he took off a Culdotha and added an extra Colgate or something. Like, it wasn't too far, especially based on Saturdays. So, yeah, it's getting rather predictable at this point.
I don't know if you can hear the horrendous amount of hail on my window at the moment. It's quite loud.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It's quiet enough.
Very odd.
But yeah, like you said, it's sort of a top 8 that we would predict. Following on from the numbers we pulled out of the Saturday top 32, the Sunday was sort of similar. The numbers were a bit switched around, but 7 decks in the top 32 were Swiftspear, 5 Umer Enforcer, only 2 Avenging Hunter, but 8 Tolarian Terror and 5 Basilisk Gate. So again, that leaves 5 decks in the top 32 not playing one of those 5 cards. And very similar to Saturday, Bogles and 2 White Weenie decks. And then Heroic and Tribe with the other 2 making it in. As we've said, combo decks. Tribe essentially in the same vein as Fams. Combo decks can get there. And Heroic in a similar vein to Bogles. If you run good, you can get there.
Yeah, I was just thinking there, obviously, as you say, the outliers are pretty standard, as we've seen over the past 3 times we've done this. Obviously, Bogles, Heroic, all running all that Glitters, which, again, is fine, and it's still they're still powerful decks. White Weenie is always one that I look at, I'm like, these cards are all just fair. Like, you've got Core Skyfisher and Thraben Inspector, which, let's be honest, are considered the best cards in Pauper, as we all well and truly know. But,
I think a big thing White Weenie has going for it, well, 2 things really. The sideboard cards are really good in White. You can essentially point them to whatever you want to beat. You've got your Dust to Dust, you've got your protection guys in red and black. So you can, if you know what you want to beat, you can point it that way. As well as Prismatic Strands at the moment is just really, really good. It beats all the Glitters decks, assuming they're not the on and Ornithopter. But like the Bogles and the Heroics, it's pretty good against. Terra, obviously really good against Mono Blue Terra. Really good against the Gates, and really good against Swiftspear decks as well.
And you also have Domri Cleric. A surprisingly good, versatile house of a sideboard card.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty interesting in the sense that the decks that are still doing well that aren't playing those cards, sorry. Some of them do change. We had 5 this time and 3 previously, and Tribe's the biggest thing that just didn't appear anywhere on the Saturday, obviously. We don't expect it to appear anytime later on. It's just similar to Kiln Fiend in the sense that it was just an outlier in the sense that it kind of done well.
Or the elves list
Or the Elves
that
list, yeah.
won, was it last week or the week before? Yeah, just obviously combo decks can combo in this meta. They know what they're aiming to beat. If you can point it at a week where the deck that's your worst matchup is the least played out of those 5, you're probably going to have a good time.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, we've got nothing really exciting to cover about this top 8, unfortunately. We have covered Mono Blue Terror, Corgate, Kuldotha, and Gardens to death, I would like to say at this point. So yeah, I'm happy to move on for our deep dive.
Yeah.
So excitingly enough, we searched far and wide and we scrolled all the way down to 9th place and found Tyler's Tribe, as we've mentioned. Came in 9th by EHDM. So for those that don't know, Tyler's Tribe's a combo deck that uses Tyler's Tribe, which is a 1-mana 1/1 that discards a card to give it +0/+4, and then you use a card inside out, which switches the power and toughness of a card and draws a card for 2 mana, and you basically make it a really big guy and attack and kill your opponent. You can obviously just discard your hand if you have 7 cards in your hand, or you can use whiteout, which is the actual text's irrelevant and the color because it's 1 and a green for an instant. But you can, if it's in your graveyard, you can sacrifice a snow land to return it to your hand, which then gives your lands basically turn into discard outlets effectively. So it's a pretty interesting combo deck, and it's really strange how it kind of works. Like Tyler's Tribe, even just playing it out in play, like having it in play, can be quite useful because you have things like Circular Logic in your deck, so you just gain a 1-mana counter spell. This has Lauren's Escape in it, which is usually, from what I've seen, it's been Blacksmith skill. And basically, Lauren's Escape's just a protection spell from Brothers War that gives an artifact or a creature hexproof and indestructible when you scry one. This is useful for protecting your Wedding Invitation, which is a way to make your Tyler's Tribe unblockable. Interesting enough, I haven't seen a tribe list for quite a while. This is adopted Lorien Reveal, which is no surprise. It's a blue deck. It wants to have cards in its hand, and it fixes its mana. So definitely a strong one. And after that, the deck is basically just draw spells, Prismatic Strands, which obviously you can use Tyler's Tribe to work with. As we've discussed, the power level of Prismatic Strands in the meta at the moment. You have a free discard outlet in Tyler's Tribe as well. So they might not play around the Prismatic Strands, and you can just straight up discard it and activate it in the same turn. So it's pretty interesting deck. We've got we've got Shadow Rift as a 1/of, Lauren's Escape as mentioned, Spell Pierce as well, 2 whiteouts, a Dizzy Spell, which is the transmute for 1-drops. So you get your Lauren's Escape, your Shadow Rift, and also your Tyler's Tribe. So you basically get most of your combo pieces there from your transmute. You're just missing your Thraben because your Shadow Rift's effectively your Wedding Invitation almost, your unblockable side of things. And then it's got 3 Thraben Inspectors and 4 Falaji Archaeologist to round things off just for value, and then 4 Ponder, 4 Preordain. So it's a fairly straightforward deck in how it looks. It's just I'm going to play Tyler's Tribe and I'm going to discard a bunch of stuff and I'm going to inside out and kill you.
Yeah.
But a lot of the cards are just it's cool how you end up watching it play out because it's got quite unique and niche lines that you can kind of utilize. So it's pretty cool, and it maximizes on Circular Logic, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to see. Obviously, we haven't seen Tribe for quite a long time. Lorien Revealed, I guess, being the biggest ad recently. Works really well with Ponders because obviously you max out on Ponders. So if you see a card or 2 cards you like, you can get them and then shuffle them away by cycling your Lorien Revealed. Lets it cut down the mana base a lot more as well. I think last time I seen Tribe, they're on 17 lands or 18 lands, and this one's down to 15.
Yep.
But yeah, nice to see another variant of a combo deck do well.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty cool.
The Prismatic Strands, as you say, is a big add at the moment, especially when you're against like the Terra and the Kuldorfer decks. It's going to carry you pretty hard. I guess that could be a nod to why this is playing Thraben Inspectors, just as an extra white guy, on one that can start flashing back prismatic strands. And the 2 toughness as well is pretty big for Thraben Inspector over. I think you were saying Squadron Hawk used to get played. Obviously that the Squadron Hawk will die to a lot of like end the festivities and stuff that people are bored into to make you discard stuff with your tribe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting the way they've moved towards away from Squadron Hawk. As you say, it's probably just for the 1 toughness protection and all that sort of stuff. And also Thraben Inspector still draws you a card and puts cards in your hand with the clue, like Squadron Hawk does. Obviously we've got the sideboard, which is I don't want to say interesting, but it's always nice to see. It feels, I always want to say like wholesome and kind of fair when a combo deck is rocking 4 Giga Drows in the sideboard. It's like, I'm just gonna try and play good, honest combo. I don't know. It's just not a thing that most like combo decks do nowadays.
No.
So it's quite nice. It's always nice to see. I do like the Lorry revealed making the mana base better with the Volatile Fjord that it can search for the Flare and Pain in the side, which is quite nice. 2 deep analysis for decks that you need obviously get some more draw through. A lot of like attrition-y based decks, and then
Core Gates and Gardens being obviously the main 2 at the moment.
And then you've got 4 Hydroblast, 3 Dispels, and 1 extra Lauren's Escape in the side to round things off. Just protection against specific matchups. Yeah, it's a pretty nice deck.
Is there a difference between that and Blacksmith skill? I can't quite remember what.
I think the Blacksmith skill gives +2/+2, but doesn't scry. I believe. It's target permanent.
Well, Blacksmith skill is target permanent, yeah.
But doesn't.
I'm assuming the only things you want to protect really are the Wedding Invitations and the creatures anyway.
Yeah.
I guess you can protect what your lands with Blacksmith skill against Ponza.
But you also don't get the scry.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Fair. Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, that's pretty much as exciting as it gets. It is still tribe. It's cool to see because the deck just flickers in and out of playability, and it's nice to see. At least we had some decks to cover this week. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it from me.
So just quick shout outs. Shout out to, I guess we'll go with Twister66 first for top 8 in both the Saturday and the Sunday with the exact list both days. Was on Mono Blue Terror, I believe.
Yeah.
Congrats, dude. But next time you fancy tearing up, please pick something with a bit more pizzazz there. We're all Talarian Terror, you know, and we need something else to cover here, so please pick something else. Again, shout out to Medvedev for doing 12th and 5th on the Saturday and Sunday. 12th with the Toadstool Bogles that we covered, and 5th with the Mono Red one drops. Just constantly tearing it up, and always at the top end of the challenges. And a shout out again, we will be shouting him out later on this week, but shout out to Weber for obviously agreeing to come on Casting Commons, and it'll be great to obviously see him here and have a conversation with him. Be good. Looking forward to it. Would you like to go over the hot takes?
Yeah. So yeah, hot takes from last week. My first one was that we'll get some communication from the PFP. I'm going to take Weber coming on the podcast as a win in that regard.
Let's go!
He'll definitely give us some information at least.
At least his perspective as well. Like I say,
yeah.
It's always nice to see where even if you don't get the unified approach, like you still get to understand what his thoughts are on the format. Which is always nice because the guy's always in challenges and, you know, showing that he knows the format as he top 32 is with like mono black sacrifice or something. And he's like, well, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's obviously it's quite obvious that he's very involved in Pauper. Like you say, from running tournaments in Brazil to playing in challenges pretty much every week.
Yep.
It's good to see, and it'll be really good to have his perspective.
As well as the constant content grind, which
Mm.
is, I don't know how the guy has time. I really don't. Yeah, so mine is the amount of players in Pauper challenges will take a dip in player count due to the state of the format or the online format. This did not happen. We had roughly the same amount as we did last week, but there's still time. There's still time.
My second one from last week was that Terra will have a resurgence. I said it would be blue-black to combat mono-red. But Terra has returned, but it's still mono-blue. And especially looking at the Sunday, it's returned in full force.
Yes. Germag took an extra week in Benners.
Yeah.
So it's back next week. I think the flight times are a bit delayed. A bit weird. That's why. So yeah, my last one was that Reese will pick up magic cards next week, and not only that, he will dabble in Pauper yet again. He changed his deck and he played Legacy. I'll take that W. Yeah, would you like to move on to the final piece and the hot takes for next week?
Yeah. So my first one, I don't know if it's a hot take. It's a boring / worrying take. Is that the next next week's challenge top 8 will probably look as stock as these ones. That's to say that the decks in the top 8 will be either Swift Spear, Terra, Avenging Hunter, Basilisk Gate, or Mer Enforcer decks, unless something's banned. But I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Well, you never know. We could find out on Wednesday. You never know. We could get insider knowledge. My next take is definitely a hot take, I would say. By the end Halloween, I would say 60 basic lands will be in the top 8 of one of the month challenges from then. And for those that don't know, the 60 basic land thing is usually a way, especially when they get to the top 8 thing, it's like kind of a way that people, are saying, please change this format, we're sick of it.
Yeah.
So
the iconic 60 basic land decks.
It's usually a thing when Wizards or whatever don't make changes and people want to show that they want changes, is usually the way it goes. And that again is obviously on the pretense that nothing changes, because we are really hoping that something does.
Yeah.
But hey ho, is what it is.
It's a fun take. It will be interesting to see if that does happen. Are we pinning that to the Swift Spear will not be banned this year take?
Added to
the Halloween date on it.
Yeah. Added to the Swift Spear will be banned. Or will not be banned, sorry.
Yeah, will not be. It's definitely not getting banned, it's fine.
Mm.
It's perfectly balanced. If anything, Core Skyfisher should be banned.
White Rain is too good.
Yeah. My last take for next week is that Mer Enforcer decks out of those top 5 will take a downtrend. I think at the moment they definitely feel the most disadvantaged out of that selection of decks. So yeah, they'll trend down.
Yeah, I can see that. It's Terra's time to make a return. My last one is Altertron will top 10 one of the challenges next weekend. Altertron is I've always felt like it's a deck that kind of just doesn't get the limelight it deserves on Magic Online due to like time restraints and things like that. But there are dedicated pilots. As Callie's shown, he regularly plays leagues with it and does top 80 the challenge with it. I do think the deck is sort of reasonable, especially if Mer Enforcer decks take a downtrend.
Yeah.
And I do think the deck's strong and got a lot of new toys with, as we discussed earlier, with the Rowan's, Grim Search and Candy Trail. So be interesting to see if someone picks it up, and I believe they will. And I think it's got a top 10.
Is this insider knowledge from Callie? Is playing in next week challenges?
Put my eggs in all in one basket. But hey, I might actually message him now and be like, please, if you're not, play the challenge and just let me get one hot take. I normally never get any. Anything else you would like to add?
No, I think that's it from me.
Yeah, I guess one thing I'd just like to add is obviously, as much as we are joking around, obviously the staleness of the format, which everyone does like. We're not hating on anything, not hating on any. We don't want to bring any negative. We're just obviously in all light and fun of the metas and things like that. We personally do think they need change, but to me, I ain't gonna stop playing Pauper, and I don't think. Well, Reese doesn't play Pauper anymore, anyways. He's a Lorcana man. So, but enough of that. I do think it is obviously good fun to highlight, and we'd like to highlight in such a light-hearted way. So please don't get offended, please. Anyways, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please don't forget to share it with your friends, your family, your local Pauper community, even your milkman. It would be great to see. That word of mouth has obviously given us a big influx of new viewers, which is fantastic to see, and we are even more excited to keep the love and show that with obviously the bonus episodes. So if you want to show love as well, please just share it. Be greatly appreciated. And that is all from us at Cast and Commons. Until next time, and don't forget to stay hydrated.
See ya.